life is still pretty ghetto. If you saw my previous video, you know that my apartment at home flooded, so I'm currently homeless. I'm staying at a friend's house, so this is where this nice background came. Like, she decorates nicely, so it's really good for this video. My apartment's supposed to be done by April, so we'll see. I've been by a couple times to pick up mail, and they're finally putting walls up, so that's a good sign. Another thing, remember I was supposed to go to Pomona, California, March 29th. Well, guess what? That contract is canceled, which lets me get into the fact of the whole crisis contract and pay that's been going on. So COVID numbers are going down, thank God. It's a good thing. But it is changing the travel nurse market. So now a lot of hospitals are experiencing low census. They don't have a need for travelers like they did before. And they're not wanting to offer those high rates because there's kind of no reason to at the moment. So my contract got canceled. I think it was technically a crisis assignment and it was paying pretty well. Not the most expensive one, you know, I've seen higher rates, but it was a good rate, I ain't gonna lie. But yes, me and all the other travelers they had hired for that date were canceled. So I'm back at square one on finding an assignment, which has been fairly difficult because prices went from here to here. And I'm like, I don't mind being here, but you're not gonna drop me down to here. So that's been a little difficult. I think one thing with the travel nurse market, a lot of people did jump into it because how well it was paying and this going through the different struggles of their own hospitals and maybe the stress of COVID. And you get to a point where it's like, if I'm gonna do this, I might as well make money. So that's where I'm at now. But you know, I've applied to other places. Hopefully I get something. I am still taking a trip to California. I am going to visit Venice Beach for my mom's birthday, so that's going to be exciting. We already got that booked, so I'm looking forward to that still. So next is going to get into like how travel nursing works, like how do you get started, etc. Like kind of go back to the basics. So the way I started, for example, I had been doing research for a while. I had friends who were travel nurses. I asked them questions. If I met a travel nurse in my unit, I asked them questions. I also joined different groups on Facebook, and I'll put the links in the comment section, in the bio or whatever, about what groups I joined. So I used to just go through and read posts just to find different information. And so my first word of advice, if you do want to be a travel nurse, is get your experience first. The recommended amount of experience is 2 years at least. Can you travel for that? Yes. Is it harder to get a job? Depends on the circumstances. But the reason why I highly recommend that 2 years is because you don't get trained. It's not like when you go get a job and you're on orientation for months or whatever. Like, you literally get 1 day of training and that's it. You may have some computer modules to do. You may, it just depends on the orientation, onboarding process for the hospital. But as far as direct training, shadowing of the nurse to get the hang of how that unit works, 1 day. Like when I first started at my assignment in Weatherford, they showed me the hospital 1 day, I did my badge or whatever, and then by day 3, I was on my own. Like just me, myself, and I taking care of patients. So as a travel nurse, you're expected, you're in there to help. So if they wanted to sit here and fully train somebody, they would just hire a brand new nurse. So the goal of a traveler is their experienced nurse. You know everything about basic patient care. So all they gotta do is kind of show you the ropes, show you where stuff is, and you go to work. That is the idea that they have. So that's the reason why I don't suggest people with little experience traveling. Everybody's learning experience is different. Some people are fast learners, some people adjust to change easy. So that's something you got to gauge for yourself. But just personally, I recommend getting as much experience as possible so that when you go in these situations, you kind of know what you're doing independently and not needing a lot of help. Another thing is the onboarding process for travel nursing can be kind of expensive. Like, the company does pay for your things like drug testing, any labs they want. If you do pay for anything, most companies reimburse you, but depending on how you do your housing or travel and things like that, that's going to come out your pocket, and then they just reimburse you the first check. So if you don't have money saved up to initially start, that could be a problem because your first paycheck may be a week behind. Like you'll work a week and then you work 2 weeks and then you get a check, and after that you get paid every week. But the startup, is going to cost some money. So be mindful of that. Like have a little security, and also depending on the situation, depending on how the market is, depending on where you're trying to go, you may not get a job immediately. It took me a little while to get my first travel assignment, and as you see now, even getting my second assignment, or technically my third, I did the extension, but even getting my next assignment has been a challenge. So you make a lot of money, but you got to be smart about it. I saved up. I have I think a lot of people suggest having at least 1 month of bills saved up to lean back on. I also kept a PRN job at my home hospital. So the hospital that I left to go traveling, we had a good relationship. I stayed PRN. My obligation is to work once a month. I try to honor that the best I can, depending on where I'm at. But I keep in contact, and whenever I am home, I do work. So while I'm at home trying to figure out my next place, I am bringing in a little bit of income. But not everybody has that option. Not all places are accommodating to that. So based on your personal situation, you just need to save up and make sure you have money to fall back on in between assignments. So that's the main thing. There are thousands of travel companies, so it's very hard to pick which one. There's different websites you can go on. Like there's a website called Highway Hypodermics, and they do like a comparison chart, and they also give like reviews from nurses that have worked with travel companies. The way I picked mine, I had a friend that used them. She had no issues with them, so I kind of just went with it. I haven't had any issues. I felt like the pay was comparable. I will say they offered more benefits than compared to some other companies, and that's one thing you have to look at. Do you want benefits? Do you want pay? Do you want support? Do you want a recruiter that's going to be like in contact all the time? I would just kind of shop around. You're not obligated to one company. You can work with 3, 4, 5, as many as you want to deal with, which I think is a good thing because some companies have better rapport with hospitals than others, and some are able to offer better pay than others. So that's just one of those things you have to just figure out for yourself. It's really hard to say which is the best company because I may have a good experience and you get the same company and hate it. And a lot of it has to do with the recruiter itself. Your recruiter is the one who vouches for you, the one who you communicate with, the one who sets everything up. So if you have a good recruiter, you can have the worst company, but they can make your experience great. So my suggestion would just be to shop around, talk to different recruiters, think about what you need as a travel nurse, what you're looking for, and then go off of that. And like I said, you can talk to anybody. You're not obligated to stay with anybody as long as you're honest and let them know that you are kind of working with multiple companies. That way they're just not feeling like, dang, I tried to do all this work for them and then they just up and went somewhere else. Open and honest communication is the best way when you're working with different travel companies. So now if you have picked a recruiter or a travel company, what do they want? You're going to have to kind of feel like a job application. They want your work history, education history, and I would go ahead, start compiling all your certifications, ACLS, your CPR, anything like that you got to renew, and all your credentials. Keep all that stuff. I would try to scan it on the computer or something and have a folder that you can just send out or upload. You also would need your shot records. I would have a copy of your birth certificate, social security card, ID, all those kind of job onboarding things. If you want direct deposit, you'll need either the authorization form from your bank or a blank check. All those little different things that you can think of that they may ask for when you apply for any new job. I compile all my documents into a folder onto my computer, and I use a cloud storage so that I can access it anywhere. I can go on my phone, I can go to my laptop, things of that nature. Of course, you want to make sure things are secure, so whatever you feel comfortable with and however you feel best with storing this type of information. If you don't want to upload on a computer due to technology, things get hacked, I would keep a folder and just keep it with everything. Even once you find an assignment, keep track of those contracts. As far as taxes and how the pay works, you have different pay packages, and you get your monthly stipend, you get your weekly stipends for meals and incidentals and housing, and then there's your hourly pay. So the way travel nurse pay sets up, the hourly is one thing, and that's what gets reported to the IRS, but your non-tax money are those stipends. So That's how the pay works. So like, let's say if you're getting $1,800 a week, a certain amount of that is hourly, and the rest of it is from your weekly stipend. So that's the beauty of it. You get non-taxed money, and so it keeps you from being like in a higher tax bracket, like them thinking you make all this money or knowing that you make all this money. It lets you make a lot of money but not actually have to pay taxes on it. Now, depending on that, also depends on what type of contract. Some of the crisis contracts were paying $150 an hour. Of course, that's being reported to the IRS. That hourly, the IRS knows you're making $150 an hour, so they gonna tax that. I'm a person that recommends going ahead and taking the tax out now, and then later on, I'd rather just overpay and get money back later than underpay and have to pay the IRS. But everybody thinks differently when it comes to that. I highly recommend like getting a tax specialist, an accountant, somebody who knows all the tax laws, knows how to, you know, put in your information when it comes to the deduction and things of that nature. Also, you got to know that you're filing in multiple states eventually. Like, depending on where you travel to, you could be filing taxes in 3 states in a year. It just depends on what you do. So you definitely need somebody who's very informed about taxes in different states and how to file them, because you can end up in some trouble. I know nothing about that. I have someone who handles that for me. So as far as documentation throughout your travel assignment, any type of money you spend on housing, like your receipts and things of that nature for rent, deposits you do, I would even say maybe your gas receipts or plane for when you come and leave your assignment. I'm not sure about meals. I would talk to your person about that, because some people say that that doesn't count, and it also depends on what state you're found in. Some states let you deduct those things, some don't. But anything that you use for like the housing and maybe scrubs, like different equipment that you needed for your job, I would keep just in case. Another big thing is you have to prove that you're duplicating expenses. That is how you get the tax-free money. So that means you're supposed to be paying bills at home in order to qualify for this money to pay for your housing where you're at. So I would just show that you're paying your rent at home. Just keep all your documents and receipts. Like, I would definitely recommend good bookkeeping as far as your money and where you put it. Some people try to cheat the system a little. You could stay with somebody, but technically you're supposed to be paying them fair market rent, and they're supposed to file that on their taxes as income, and it just gets real complicated. So me personally, I just pay rent where I'm at and pay rent at home, and just keep it simple. I'm not trying to finesse the system, because the way my luck is set up, it'll bite me in the butt. And how I find housing, I think I'll do a separate video about that, because I do have a tour of one of the places I stay. I think I'm just gonna wrap it up for now. More content coming soon. I'm trying to do better at recording, like I said. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and all that to keep up with me. Comment if you have any questions. Let me know what you guys want to hear. And thanks for watching.